So, welcome, Unity of Medina. One in spirit, that's who we are. Today's an exciting day. We have a guest speaker, Bruce Price, who speaks at Unity centers in the area. And his talk is going to be on co-creating friendship. And you only get one chance to make a first impression. And I always ask for a second chance. People don't always grant it. I don't know. So I first met Bruce at a Great Lakes conference. And I think it was, Bruce, when Sharif Abdullah was there. Perhaps. That's what we say, perhaps, because we've been around so long, we don't know where we are and what we're doing. But I do want to tell you that Bruce is a student of Unity for decades. He served as a spiritual leader at Unity Chapel of Light in Talmadge, which is where our board's going to go to do a training. He has a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from Case Western Reserve. He has an MBA from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. Is that right? Yeah. RPI. It's a big deal, so my sister-in-law told me. So, I'm going with that. A big deal, Bruce. And so he has curiosity to explore the mysteries of life. I love that he put in his bio, he has a fun personality. We'll see. And a fresh perspective on a variety of subjects. So when you're called, you're called. Even if you have a bachelor's degree and an MBA, when you're called, you're called. And that's how it is. So Bruce is called to talk to us about spiritual principle. So today, our service is about friendship this month, but I wanted to talk about power because that's our one of our abilities, and to understand that power is a gift from God. And can you imagine when everybody is fighting to have power? You know who I'm talking about. That really, power is all of ours, and it's a gift from God. So when we release speaking in a positive power, the words of truth, we are using our power in the correct way. Interestingly enough, with power comes the quality of poise. We control our words. And we have a mastery. And the mastery of power flows through us without conscious effort. We are power. It's a gift from God. And if everyone in our world could just relax and allow the flow. So when we say, what can we do? We can relax. We can speak words of truth. We can accept our power and never feel small. And so let's go into prayer for a moment. At Unity of Medina, we are one in spirit. We are one in power. This is the month of power. We accept that power and we speak words of truth to each other to allow ourselves to grow in community, to hold the truth, to live the truth, to be truth. And so with that in mind, Angie is ready to lead us in song.
Yes, she is.
Yes?
And you're ready to sing and dance and stand, aren't you? Are you ready to weave together? together. Weave us together in unity and love. Weave us together. Weave us together, together in love. We are many textures, we are many colors, each one different from the other. But we are entwined with one another in one great tapestry. Weave us together. Weave us together in unity and love. Weave us together. Weave us together, together in love. We are different instruments playing our own melodies, each one tuning to a different key. But we are all playing in harmony in one great symphony. Weave us together. Weave us together in unity and love. Weave us together. Weave us together, together in love. A moment ago, still we did not know our unity, only diversity. And now the Christ in me greets Christ in thee in one great family. Weave us together. Weave us together in unity and love. Weave us together. Weave us together, together in love.
Get this straightened out. Thank you. You know, that song brings back a lot of memories to me because the first Unity service I ever attended in Orlando, Florida, that song was, and that was 30 years ago. So it's been around a while. Welcome again to Unity of Medina. Here at Unity, we affirm our core values of integrity, joy, acceptance, love, and spiritual growth. May is the power of power. Donna will light the purple candle to commemorate that. As she's lighting the candle, let us affirm together our affirmation for the month of power. I have the power to create my own world. Thank you. Today's daily word: as I practice the presence of God, I feel secure. There's only one power and one presence in the universe and in my life: God, omnipotent, omniscience, omnipresence. It is not only all around me, God is within me. As I take this truth into my heart, I feel calm and secure. The circumstances of the world have no lasting power over me. God is greater and more enduring than anything I may be called to face. I have within me the power to feel God's protecting presence at any time. As I pray, I affirm the strength and the power of God are mine to call upon. I can use these divine powers to move beyond that which may scare or intimidate me. In renewed faith and deep security, I move bravely forward. Today's passage was taken from 1 John 4:4. The one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world. And now Angie will prepare us for meditation.
I come to the garden alone, while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear as I hang out there, no other has ever known. I come to the garden alone, while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear as I hang out there, no other has ever known. No other has ever known.
I invite you to join me in a time of meditation, reflection. I'm feeling peace. Let there be peace. Let it begin with me. Let us practice now. Resting in peace. Relaxing physically so that we may open our hearts and our minds to the full consciousness of the Christ. It's important to breathe, inspiring ourselves with the gift of life. How great it is. What a blessing to be present and to be among friends. Two things. Am I breathing? For if I am breathing, I am alive. And am I moving with grace? Allowing the higher consciousness to guide me, to lead me, and to know I am well and I am in abundance. Jesus reminded us, what of the lilies of the field and the birds? If they are taken care of, how so much more us? At least in this moment, we are comforted in the warm and tender embrace of the loving, living Christ. All is well, and I am at peace. And it's in times of peace that we are most creative. In times of peace, we have the resources to devote to meaning, to creating meaning. Each and every one of us, a cog in the wheel, a piece of the whole. Everything before this moment is only a preparation for this moment. So I leave you to move into the silence, considering the meaning of now, knowing that you are fully loved and free to express your self, to lift and inspire everyone else. So let's take that thought of meaning, peace into the silence. Thank you, Angie. I love the ministry of music. It touches us in ways that mere words struggle to capture, But it is the power of the voice that is representative of the power of power. Philip, St. Philip is the representative of that. And I don't know if you know that Philip means lover of horses. And horses are pretty powerful. We had the powerful horse race last night. I missed it, but they are elegant beasts. But so are we. So good morning. I'm Bruce. Yeah. People call me Bruce. Some other things, but all in good fun, I hope. So it's interesting you mentioned about being called. So I'm what you would call a lay minister. It means I lay around a lot and occasionally I talk. I even have a little alter ego. I haven't really expressed it too loudly, but it's accidental minister. Just to be clear, I don't consider myself the accidental minister, but a accidental minister. Because I think there's a lot of accidental ministers around. I think that all of us have something that adds light to the flame. And when the moment is right, we have that opportunity, and sometimes it's quite surprising how that shows up. It can be a simple thing, like helping someone in a moment of distress. It can be raising someone else's children because they landed in your nest, and they needed your love, and you gave it to them, and all sorts of things in between. I think of the need that we have for each other's talents as I look at this little dodecahedron, which I've found to be the perfect physical symbol of the 12 powers, because there are 12 sides, and for example, purple is the color of May, or well, we give it, that's arbitrary, but we've said May. We'll focus on exploring this power, but the fact of the matter is there is only one power. You know, all the contradictions that we find in unity, that I say, well, what's unity about? Well, it's one power. And what do you study? Well, we study the 12 powers. I thought you said there was one. And so I've always described it as like a diamond, you know, or a gem, that there's all the different facets that are expressions of that one inner power. And here it is, the 12-sided gem. But the reason I bring it up about how we need each other is there are people who know how to tell time, and there are people who know how to build clocks. When it comes to this, solving this puzzle, I am a time teller, and my son is a clock builder. So somehow on the way over here, and I don't even know how I did it, because all of the colors were uniform when I started, but now they're a little mixed up. There's always a message, though, in whatever you encounter. So this is actually a better representation of the 12 powers, because it's not like you get one. You're always getting all of them. Now, one of them may be standing up, you know, like when a jazz ensemble is playing and they're playing, and then somebody stands up, does a little riff, and then steps back into the fold. And I'm going to talk about that relative to power, the power of power, which dominion is another word for the power of power. Because I was always confused, like, the power of power? Aren't they all power? But the word dominion came to mind. And let me read something about that. The ability to master, dominate, and control base senses, thoughts, and feelings and beliefs, obviously, and spiritually elevate them. So I think of the power of power, which I'll refer to as dominion, is sort of like the air traffic controller of the 12 powers. Like, I'm going into a situation, I'm having a meeting with somebody I have a little conflict with, I need to call forth a little love. So, you know, the power of power is saying, bring forth some love. Oh, some understanding. We're going to need some understanding. We're going to need some patience. Patience isn't necessarily one of the 12 powers. But this is something I use to remind me. And when I go home, I'm going to be relying upon my friend, my son, to use his gifts to set that straight again. And But, if you think about the whole, entirety of human expression, we have a lot of different clock builders, and we rely on them. Sometimes people look at ancient societies and they say, how did they do those things? And so the idea is there was some higher consciousness that was present, that was able to build the clocks, and then the higher consciousness leaves, and you're left with, eventually it decays into chaos because you don't know how to bring that back. And so in a spiritual context, we're talking about the power of the Christ. And the thing is that what I love about unity is it's about practical Christianity. And if we can't figure out a way to make it real in our existence, our living, then why are we doing it? Certainly not to be pious and holier than anybody else. That's not the unity way. It's more about we're all on a journey and we're all seeking something. So for me, curiosity, if I had two words to describe me, I'd say curiosity and evolution. I think curiosity is the key to staying in the mode of receiving and evolving new perspectives, raising consciousness. And I believe we're constantly evolving. The moment we think we're there, we need to rethink. So, three gifts we have that I'm grateful for. If we read the Declaration of Independence, actually, they call it life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But to me, these are really the three gifts of the Creator. First of all, life. I mean, isn't it great? I mean, I know it's a struggle at times. I know it's a challenge. I know there's heartbreak, but that's just the evidence of love. So, because if you don't risk love, you're not ever going to break your heart. So, it's kind of worth it, but it hurts. But that's part of being human, which is this cool life that we're having, right? Free will. It's up to us. I don't personally believe in predestiny. I believe that we create our lives with God, which is, and of course, the pursuit of happiness, which I really think about happiness, not like I need to be happy or I need to be pleased, but really that path of fulfillment and the richness that comes with that, which is really, I think, a foundational happiness. So we have these, but what I want to share today, the one thing I want you to take away, in case I get distracted and forget to mention it later. It happens with me. The one thing I want you to take away is the power, because we're focusing on power, but the power of the third unity basic principle. Now, when I looked on your website, it reads this way. Our thoughts create our reality. To change our lives, we begin by changing our thoughts. Now, when I first heard it, it was something more like we co-create our reality with God through thoughts held in mind, or with thoughts held in mind. So another thing that I love about unity is the flexibility of the dogma. Some folks say we don't have a dogma. We have a dogma, but it is flexible. And so, when we're talking about creating friendship, if you meet somebody who speaks a different language, there's often an understanding gap, right? And so what do we typically do? Well, we talk louder because you clearly didn't understand what I was saying the first time, right? So we mistake power for force. Force is not power. And if someone doesn't understand the way we said something, then we just probably need to try saying it in a different way. And so here's two different ways. Here's an example of that. Two different ways of explaining, because it's not the letter of the law. It's the spirit of the law. It's the essence of the principle that we're trying to get into our consciousness, into our hearts. And so I don't know that there's any perfect words to describe the third principle. But the essence is, I'm in charge. I'm the master of me with the power of the Creator living through me. So I'm co-creating my experience. I'm in charge. So There's so much power in that, but there's also a couple of drawbacks. You can't complain, and you can't blame. Now, you can, but there's no power behind that. That's basically an abdication of the ownership of your power. So to me, on my journey, what led me to unity was when I went past engineering and international business and all those things, I started working on human behavior and trying to understand more or less me in the context of everybody else. And so from that, like, why do we do what we do? And how do we create what we create? And so self-reliance, especially emotional self-reliance, is really the thing that I worked the most on. And I eventually helped other people with this through all kinds of coaching and workshops and whatnot. But the bottom line is, it's not like I know it and I can tell it to you. I can work with you on it because I don't have the answer for anyone. I'm struggling to find the answer for me. But it all starts with that third principle, which is that it's me that's responsible for it. I co-create my reality. So you might have heard of a guy, before I jump to Viktor Frankl, the other thing about the principles is they work as teammates with each other. So the foundation is the third, that I have to accept that I'm in charge. But I also have to use the fifth, which is I can't just know these things and think they're great. I've got to live them. I've got to put them into practice. I've got to live in the truth that I know. Otherwise, I just can be an ascetic monk sitting on the top of a mountain waiting for those people in the cartoon strips to come up and ask me questions. You know, I see that all the time. There's a question, perhaps. So that self-reliance and that idea that I'm responsible for my experience, here's another clockmaker, Viktor Frankl. Anybody aware of Viktor? Everybody aware of Viktor? Viktor was, he was in a concentration camp during World War II. So he had a chance. He was also a psychiatrist. So he had that opportunity to both be a part of the experience, but also be observing the experience. And he developed a whole psychological area of study around it. He wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. It's great. And, you know, the first part of the book is all about his experiences and how he came to the conclusions. And then the second part of the book is all about describing the science of psychology he developed from that. But here's some quotes. Everything can be taken from a man. Now, when I say man, it's the collective man, okay? Okay. Everything can be taken from a person, but one thing. See, different language. Okay, didn't talk louder, just changed my words. The power of the voice. Everything can be taken from a person, but one thing. The last of the human freedoms. To choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. So it's not what happens to me, it's what I decide to respond. A lot of people say, well, you know, this kid's bad because he grew up in this environment and that made him the way he is. And look, there are effects from the context of which you experience life. But we all have the power to get beyond that. And that's why we have so many of those stories that tell about overcoming. When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. These all words are all from Viktor. This is the one I like the most, and this is the one that correlates today's talk the strongest. Between stimulus and response is a space. Sometimes that space is very short. You're being defensive. I'm not being defensive. You know, ever have that? Is it just me? Is it just me? I'm not being defensive. So sometimes we react instinctively, impulsively, so fast. But even when we do that, there's still a space there. We are actually still choosing that. I'm just reacting. Yeah, you're choosing it though. But it takes a lot of work to get to the point to kind of create a little bit of more space there. And that's one of the reasons why I meditate. and pray and pray and meditate. So between stimulus and response is a space, and in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So back to the accidental minister for a moment. I actually have a whole list of key concepts that are part of, for lack of a better word, my ministry. And I think this one is the most fundamental. The accidental minister believes everyone has both the right and the responsibility to define their own idea of God and to define and express their relationship with this idea of God. I mean, there is nobody who knows what God is. Nobody can tell you what it is. Now, there's a lot of people that will tell you they can tell you. Same as a lot of people will tell you what happens when you die. Nobody knows that either. It's a personal relationship. It's a personal melding of consciousness between you and the power that you perceive, the power that you hear, the power that you understand, the power that you see in expression. You get to choose what God is. Again, that's what I love about unity, because there's the freedom to do that and the encouragement to do that. And it evolves for me. And then how you want to express that relationship is also up to you. And this is just, to me, a very strong demonstration of the third principle of unity. So when I say that everyone has both the right and the responsibility, most folks are pretty straightforward on the rights part. Especially in America, we seem to be pretty clear about our rights. The responsibilities, I'm not quite sure we're as committed to. But that is the other side of the coin, is that you have that responsibility. So if you don't define it, then you are susceptible to being influenced, accepting, adopting somebody else's idea. And I don't think that that's wholly a bad thing. It's just that it's not authentically you. And you may end up doing things on the authority of someone else that really aren't the expression of your true nature. And it may take you in strange places. So I think coming back to the core of truth and love is that idea that you have a personal relationship with God. So what does all this mean about co-creating friendship? Well, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. I have yet to go to a unity church where we don't sing that song somewhere in the service, typically near the end. That's practical Christianity. And, you know, it's kind of easy to be peaceful in this room, right? Because everybody's kind of thinking the same way. And, you know, but it's kind of a little more challenging to deal with folks that don't necessarily agree with you, especially in certain moments, especially in those moments when, for whatever reason, we lose our sense of abundance and we get a little bit into scarcity. A lot of time it's the scarcity of time. A lot of times that shows up in really simple ways like impatience. Like when you're waiting in line and that person's paying with pennies in front of you. You get my gist. So what are we really working on when we come to an event like this is to, you know, just work on that dominion, that mastery of ourselves so that we can become more centered in our spiritual guidance than our instinctive, impulsive reactions, which, I mean, it's natural that we have these primal responses. I mean, we were living in the wilderness. As difficult as life is now, it was a little more difficult a few thousand years ago. And, you know, we have no saber-toothed tigers, you know. A lot of the fears and a lot of the threats that we embody from our fears are really not real threats. They're just perceptions that we create. We think we're being threatened when we're not. But some of that is still imprinted upon our natural, I don't know, I'll call it DNA for lack of a better word, because like when we see a stranger, I'm encouraging curiosity, but it's also important to have some skepticism because you don't know the intention of that stranger. But I'm encouraging you in co-creating friendship to move your consciousness to assuming a positive intention from that person. Most of the time, they're just like you, a little nervous, a little unsure, especially like you're at a party and you have to talk to people you never met before, and it's like, oh, how awkward will this be, you know? And it's everybody's feeling awkward. Or, you know, for me, it was the middle school dance. I mean, oh my God, there's girls over there. I'm so curious about girls. Oh my God, but I'm so scared to talk to them. Like, their saber-toothed tigers are my world. You know what I'm saying? Like, like, so all these things. And what are those fears about? They're about me, about how I feel about myself. Am I comfortable in my own skin? And hey, that's tough when you're 12. It's tough when you're 60. We do learn a lot, and we learn over time that a lot of those things we're afraid of don't really hurt, and we can suffer them and be okay. So in terms of co-creating friendship, if we can move to a higher consciousness of just assuming a positive intention when we meet somebody new, versus immediately going to, how can I protect myself? This person wants something from me. My God, what if it's a telemarketer? You know, the phone rings, I'm immediately defensive. Who's calling me and what do they want from me, you know? Not like, hey, it's a friend. So I just don't answer my phone. But, you know, even if you end up talking to that person, they may actually have something good for you. So again, that friend lens I'm talking about is where we can just look outward and see positivity coming our direction instead of things that we need to protect ourselves from. At the same time, practical Christianity, you've got to have boundaries, okay? And so it's not like, because not everybody is in an elevated state of consciousness. Some people are really struggling. And that shows up a lot of the times, like they're more scared than you are, and they might have a gun, you know? And seriously, I don't like to bring these things up necessarily, but my son, he's 17, he's going out in the world, and everything I say to him is for me, but I pretend it's for him. I've gotten to the point where, hey, when you start to engage with people, just assume everybody has a gun. And I don't mean that from a standpoint of fear, but just prudence. Because sometimes I get a little sassy. And we were walking across the street in Pittsburgh. We'd gone to see the Eagles concert. And that was great. My son came along. He only knew one song. He says, after they got past Hotel California, I was a little lost. But I love being with you, Mom. You know, Dad, too. So anyway, we're walking home. It's, I don't know, 11:30 or so. It's a nice late March evening. And we're going by a road, and it's like 6 lanes wide, or maybe more. And we're walking across on the light. We got the little white PED sign. And all the cars are stopped. And then on the turn lane, a white Porsche Cayenne comes flying up, and he's just going to go right through the turn. I don't know that he saw us at first. We might have been behind the other things, but my son steps right out in front of him, and all of a sudden there's almost like in that one movie with, we're walking here, Midnight Cowboy, you know, which was a totally improvised thing. But back to my story. So he almost runs into my son, and my son just naturally give him the what the heck look, you know, and come on, man, you know, or whatever you want to call that. WTF, I guess. And the guy driving it, and so it was full of people, and so we finished, and then they turned, and so they're right there about where that screen is. I mean, we're right on the sidewalk, they're right on the curb. Rolls down the window, and he says, you ought to be nice to people with guns. And I'm like, what the heck just happened? And I'm thinking, like, they could have just shot at us. You know, like, that sort of thing happens these days. And maybe, I don't want to over-index on that, other than to say that you got to have boundaries. I mean, I'm not saying just be gullible and just a plum to be picked by the nearest crow flying by. But I am saying that within the context of even this situation, there's room for co-creating friendship. In fact, I took from that not outrage, but he had a good point. Now, I didn't know they had guns. I assume they did. I don't know if they even did. They didn't show us their guns. But it made me think, how many times do I overreact in a situation as though I'm invincible, or I have the right or the privilege of acting that way? Like, why not? So here's the thing. Hostility is the thing. Conflict is not our problem in engaging. Actually, we need conflict. You know what makes a car go down the road? Conflict between the tire and the asphalt. Friction, we call it. Coefficient of friction. That's what makes movement forward. We need conflict. What makes it difficult is hostility. And when people deliver hostility in our direction, we instinctively tend to respond with hostility back. And that's just because we're so wired to be hostile. And again, that's where spirituality and elevation of consciousness comes in. We tame those base senses. We get dominion over them. So we can be, well, wait a minute, I don't have to respond to hostility with hostility. Because you know what creates peace? You ever see the movie Gandhi? Ben Kingsley? You know, and the people are doing all this stuff, and he's like, just staying peaceful. And the people want to fight back. They want to fight back, and bad things are happening to people. He's like, no, if we stay peaceful, eventually the aggressor will feel their own hostility, because they're like, wow, I'm just mutilating these people, right? So if we have the presence of mind to respond to hostility with peace, even neutrality, just love, it creates the space in that response where friendship can develop. And all of a sudden, the person's like, oh, I don't need to be that way. As soon as I respond with hostility, the other person feels justified. It's a good thing I moved first because that guy was coming for me. And of course, I feel justified in my hostility because he was hostile to me. And we have this big argument about who's more justified in their hostility, Ukraine or Russia. I guess I probably have a time limit, huh? Have I?
If you see me go like this.
Yeah. Well, how much more time would you like? 5 minutes? Too much? Too little?
Something to ask an audience.
Yeah. Well, I mean, is it good so far? I mean, if you're falling asleep, I'll stop. All right, I'll bring it. I'll bring it. So, just two things I want to say about the whole thing. You know, we create inherent enemies, right? For example, Browns versus Steelers, right? Christians versus Muslims, Coke versus Pepsi. I mean, we tend, because why? In essence, we all want to belong. And so that's one of the most basic human needs, is the need for belonging. And then once we belong, we want to find significance in that belonging. And that significance usually is elevating the people that I belong with. And often it's like in comparison to or antagonism against the other. Unity tells us there is no other. We are one. So, but sometimes it doesn't look like that, okay? And sometimes not everybody's heard that. So Jesus showed us what to do, though. Do you remember Jesus at the well with the Samaritan woman? I thought it was interesting. I'm driving in and I see two different buildings with the name Samaritan on them, right here on Route 18. I thought, oh my God, they're in on the message. You see, you start looking for it, you see it, right? Which is another thing. If you look for positive, you will find it. And so, the Samaritans were sworn enemies. They're like, why in the world are you talking to her, Jesus? But he was nice to her. He treated her with dignity and respect. And they talked about faith. And then she went and talked to the Samaritan and said, hey, this guy's pretty cool. You should listen to him. Kindness breeds kindness. the true meaning of aloha. You know aloha. Anybody been to Hawaii? I went there once. It was pretty nice. And they said aloha. And so we know it means hello and goodbye, but it's really much deeper than that. Like the true meaning of aloha is showing respect and love to others and living in harmony with all that surrounds you. I thought, what a unity concept that is. Aloha. So I give you that as a tool to take with you. That concept of aloha. Showing respect and love to others and living in harmony with all that surrounds you. That's in line with what I'm sharing today. So, So Maya Angelou. So, by the way, for the 12 Powers, I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with this, but this is a book. It's written by one of my favorite Unity people, Dr. Paul Hasselbeck. He taught my metaphysics course. And, even though I'm not a Unity minister, I've taken a lot of Unity learning. And also Cher Holton, who I don't know, but she's equal status with him, apparently, because they co-created this. And it's a very practical expression of the 12 Powers. So, and it's like there's like 6 pages for each one. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, that's a good reference. But Maya Angelou, you're all familiar with her, right? So in the 40th edition of this, which is Bedrock Unity, I think most of you are familiar with this book. I bet maybe all of you have read it, The Power Within You, Eric Butterworth. And for the 40th edition, Maya Angelou put a foreword in. And I just want to read this. Butterworth had an unshakable faith in the power of thought. Third principle. The power to change not only one's life, but the world. I think he also had faith that change would come and that we have the power to call it up and bring it about sooner by working at it. That change was en route in any case, and we could either help it grow and mold it to our needs and the needs of others, or be run over by it. It's not a condition, it's a path. It's a journey. I'm always amazed when people walk up and say, I'm a Christian. I always think, already? Got it? Goodness gracious, lucky you. Well, I'm trying to be a Christian, working at it and trying. And that's kind of the thing, is that it's a journey. And like I said, if you think you're there, think again. For the most important reason is, why in the world would you want it to be over? There's so much good. There's so much to be found. And I think that we can create friends. And by the way, you don't have to be friends to be friendly. And if we bring the peace, if we bring the patience, if we bring the higher consciousness, if you bring a higher consciousness into a situation, you will leave it at a higher level of consciousness. You are that impactful, you are that magnificent, and I've enjoyed my first time with you.
So I'm going to play a song I wrote called We Will Lead, and I thought it would work well with the talk. I wrote it amongst friends, and it kind of became our anthem for a little while there. For now, forget your sorrow, just lay it down on me, for I'll be here tomorrow, and tomorrow we will leave. You can crumble now, and I will pick up every piece. Let the walls fall down. You can lay it all on me. are broken, don't waste time fighting your heart. For every seed, the sky will open, but only few will find their start. For now, forget your sorrow, just lay it down on me. For I'll be here tomorrow, and tomorrow we will lead. You can crumble now, and I will pick up every piece. Let the walls fall down. You can lay it all on me. If you can't stand out in a rainfall, how can you smile at the touch of sun? Your heart may ache, but if you let it all come pouring out, you will feel love. For now, forget your sorrow, just lay it down on me. For I'll be here tomorrow, and tomorrow we will lead. Stand up when it hurts. Find your way up through the dirt. Own your world from birth. Then every heart will move the earth. Stand up when it hurts. Find your way up through the dirt. Own your world from birth. Then every heart will move the earth. Stand up when it hurts. Then every heart will move the earth.
Thank you, Angie. That was beautiful. And Bruce, thank you for a very inspiring message. Needed that today. Need that every day. Let me see. Announcements. That's what I'm here for. There you go. All right. Please let a board member know if you can help with hospitality. No long-term commitment is necessary. And commitments are not followed by excuses, so let's remember that. I had a tendency, I had a two-step program. I made a commitment, then immediately made an excuse, so try not to do that. The Language of the Heart meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous is at 7 o'clock here tonight. And I will say this, I facilitate that meeting and have for 7 years. You're all invited to attend. It's an open meeting, so we welcome the alcoholic, the addict, the non-alcoholic, and the curious. So if you have a family member that you're curious about whether or not a recovery program might be right for them, you're certainly welcome to be here. I would love to see you. Karen Kadowski will tell us more about donations needed for the homeless. And Karen, you're on.
Good morning. Good morning. My sister works for the, it's right here, the Counseling Center of Wayne and Holmes counties. And they had gotten a grant for her to work with the homeless. And she did that for a while. The grant ran out, and I'm going to read this little thing that she wrote about that. She says, while working with people experiencing homelessness in Worcester, I have learned that socks and men's underwear, boxers or briefs, are always in need. Although the grant received by my employer, the Counseling Center of Wayne and Holmes County, that has allowed me to work with this population has not been renewed, I am inspired to secure men's underwear donations for Reverend Kevin Franklin of Trinity UCC. He and his volunteers have been serving breakfast Monday through Friday to anyone in need for many years, and they have inspired me with their service to stay connected and serve with them. So the top two things, there's been a misunderstanding, myself included, so whatever I said to you guys before, we're collecting men's underwear and men's socks only, because they have, she said they have another avenue for women's socks, they get them like by the crate or whatever. So men's underwear and men's socks, and I will deliver them to my sister, and she'll get them to that church, and they will be able to distribute them. And there's a box out in the hallway for it, and the papers, a thing my sister wrote up about who are the homeless and so on. You can read that. And I'm not sure how long we're doing this. I think Margene said in January or something we'll revisit and see what we've collected or whatever. But I want to thank Margene and Sally for helping us do this, and any donations are appreciated, and also I can also take monetary donations if anybody wants to do that. Thank you.
So thank you, Bruce. It's funny, when you say, when you're in other churches, you can be influenced. Now, everybody in this room probably thinks, well, I'm really too smart for that. But I want to tell you, my dear beloved sister and I, when we were young girls, were following the Pope in the Catholic Church, and they were our authority as God. And so my sister and I set about and had 10 children in 8 years. Then we found religion. So influence does exist, and the responsibility of knowing who your inner soul, inner God is so important. I thank you for your talk. It was so enlightening in so many ways. And so here we go. It's time for us to bless. And since Bruce is our new person here today, we can bless him and each other. So we bless you. We appreciate you. We behold the Christ in you. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Bruce, for being here. And, I'm sorry, we have Mary, John's sister, here for the first time, too. So bless you, Mary, for being here. I gave her the option of staying home and, having coffee, and she said, no, I want to go. I've been there before, and I enjoyed it. So I'm glad you enjoyed it. And it was definitely an enlightening speech for someone who is not new to Unity, but, visiting Unity. So now is our time to give. And, this is a give and receive, and we're so grateful for that, that you give to Unity of Medina so we can keep our work going. I believe, as Bruce does, that we're all ministers, we all have God within, and so we all do our work here, and we help each other grow, so it's so important. So if you would take your tithes and your love offerings in your hand, and if you would bless them, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. We are grateful.
I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. We are so blessed. We are so blessed. We are so grateful for all that we have. We are so blessed. We are so blessed. We are so grateful. We are so blessed.
And so I thank you, all you generous souls who have given today. We have a board, especially thanking Sally for taking care of our responsibility of finance. Oh, you give to a great board that serves you with honesty and integrity. And we are so grateful for your generosity and for the service of our board. We want to thank you for asking for prayer and placing those prayers in a prayer box where we pray for you and send them to Unity Village for 30 days of prayer. Thank you for trusting us. Thank you for knowing that we are God-centered, that we are one, and that we are good, and we pray in that way for you. And for our world, bless our world. It is crying for blessings, and we are power. We can speak blessings to our world. We can see the negativity, but that's not our job. Our job is to speak good, to speak God, to speak truth to our world from our power center. And so it is. We bless our world with peace, and we hold in consciousness, peace is possible. And so now we come together in a circle to sing our peace song.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be you.